This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
The People's Republic of China prepares to celebrate its 70th anniversary on Tuesday. Various events have been planned for the momentous milestone. What lessons can Africa draw from China's transformation in the past 70 years? We have comprehensive coverage on this. Hello and welcome to CGTN. This is Africa Live and I'm Karen Roberts in Nairobi. Also coming up in the programme. In business, Kenya's central bank mops up $1 million as the deadline to surrender demonetized notes sets in. And in sports, Luvo Manyonga and Akani Simbine eye further improvements beyond Doha World Championships. We begin with the commemoration that has been held in Beijing to honor Chinese martyrs. President Xi Jinping and other senior leaders gathered at Tiananmen Square earlier on Monday to pay tribute to those who made the ultimate sacrifice for the nation. CGTN's Sun Tianyuan reports.
Beijing held a solemn national ceremony for China's martyrs near the monument to the people's heroes in Tiananmen Square, culminating in a moment of silence for the nation's fallen heroes. More than 4,000 people, including President Xi Jinping, came to pay tribute to those who sacrificed their lives for China's independence and liberation. According to official figures, there have been 20 million Chinese martyrs since the First Opium War in 1840 to the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949. The Chinese government has stressed on many occasions the importance of the contribution of heroes to the nation's hard-earned peace and prosperity. In 2014, China's top legislature approved September 30th as Martyrs' Day, a day ahead to the National Day holiday. And in last year, a new law made it illegal to defame heroes and martyrs or to distort and diminish their deeds. Tomorrow, Beijing will host a magnificent military parade in celebration of the nation's 70th birthday. And being here just one day ahead of the big day, it reminds me of a saying: the only reason your world is filled with warm sunlight is because there are people who pledged their lives to make the world a better place. And like the Chinese leader Mao Zedong's words inscribed on the monument, eternal glory to the people's heroes, and these martyrs will be remembered forever by this nation and its people. Sun Tianyuan, CGTN, Beijing.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has attended a special presentation at the Great Hall of the People to mark the 70th anniversary of New China. The president was joined at the event by other senior officials as well as thousands of spectators. The presentation showed how the Communist Party of China and the Chinese people founded the country in 1949. It also highlighted the changes that have taken place in the country since the reform and opening up process began in the late 1970s. Well, the People's Republic of China will celebrate its 70th birthday on Tuesday, as we've been saying. For more on this, we are now joined by CGTN's Lindy Amantangana in Shanghai. Lindy, what are some of the events planned to mark China National Day?
Well, Karen, here in Shanghai, the night sky is going to be transformed by tomorrow night into a beautiful and spectacular light show. In fact, the city is already conducting some rehearsals, giving us a bit of a sneak peek of what we might expect tomorrow. Perhaps you can see behind me that some of the landmark buildings like the Oriental Pearl Radio and TV Tower and the Shanghai Tower are being lit up in red and gold, echoing the pride and patriotism that you're seeing all over China at the moment. Of course, these are the colors of the flag. And I promise you, you'll just see it everywhere you go these days. Tens of thousands of people are expected to gather along the Bund, the popular areas there, and of course the Huangpu River to take in all of this magnificent light and color. But indeed, the main celebration, as you well know, will be taking place in Beijing. The grand military parade set to take place tomorrow morning, and that is going to be the largest event of its kind that China has ever seen. For the first time, China's peacekeeping force will be participating in the parade, and there'll also be a grand civilian parade. Let's take a quick look now at how preparations are getting along.
This is the training ground for the army on the outskirts of Beijing. It's usually used to provide basic site support. But during the parade preparation this year, all the hiking and ground equipment teams are doing their preparations for the big day here. According to the Office of the Joint Command for the Military Parade, the scale of the parade will be China's largest ever. It will feature a total of 59 formations and a military band, more than 160 aircrafts, and 580 pieces of military hardware. The events will show the evolving nature of China's military structure.
这次阅兵是按照联合作战的特点要求。
This military parade is organized in accordance with the characteristics of joint operations and by different combat modules. Not only it covers traditional combat domains including land combat operation, maritime combat operation, and air defense, among others, but it also highlights new combat domains like information combat and unmanned combat. It is highly representative of China's military development.
The changes are in evidence not just in the size and composition of the units, but also in the training methods, which are more scientific and efficient this time. High-tech devices played a big part in getting better results and improving efficiency.
During the formation training, we have extensively used pads and high-definition cameras to record the training process for every square team, every row, and even every soldier. It helps us to identify and solve problems in time. Satisfactory results have been achieved. For armament formations, we have brought in the battle navigation training and assessment system. We are able to get scores right after each part of the training, and it has greatly improved our training results.
Hard training with the best logistical support, 24-hour medical backup, a special food supply center, and a tailoring station are also available in the training center to make sure the military personnel taking part are in good shape and smartly turn out on the big day.
Lindy, China-Africa relations are also marking 70 years. What can you tell us about how ties between the two are viewed in China?
Well, as you say, Karen, of course, 70 years of relations between China and Africa. But what I've noticed is that many people point to just how much those relations have strengthened and deepened in recent years, with a particular focus on opportunities for mutual learning and, of course, for cooperation. Now, one analyst that we spoke to pointed to the fact that there are many lessons that Africa can learn from China's success in poverty alleviation, for example. But he did say that that success in poverty alleviation that China has seen is not a copy and paste model. And while Africa can learn from it, ultimately Africans will determine their own future. Here's what he had to say.
I do think Africa has a very promising future in terms of economic development. And in the future, I think China and Africa, we could learn from each other, especially in terms of poverty alleviation and industrial development, and how to set up our own mode on the way to modernization. But I don't think African countries should copy the mode of China, because we even don't think China mode should be an example for the other countries to follow and copy.
Well, of course, in my experience here, Karen, what I've certainly seen is that what many people, the sort of growing international community here in China is often referred to as our foreign friends. And if nothing else, that is some indication of the sentiment that people carry towards people from Africa and indeed other parts of the world, and may very well guide future relations between China and Africa. Back to you, Karen.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lindy. That was CGTN's Lindy Ntongana there in Shanghai following the celebrations. The People's Republic of China, they'll celebrate the 70th birthday tomorrow on Tuesday. Moving on to other news now. The funeral service for former French President Jacques Chirac is now underway. Let's now cross over to Paris and take a look. Well, the funeral is taking place at the Church of Saint-Sulpice. Foreign leaders have been gathering for Jacques Chirac's funeral. Around 30 current and former heads of state are attending the ceremony taking place in Paris. They include the presidents of Russia, Hungary and Germany. Well, today has been declared a national day of mourning in France to honour the late leader. A minute of silence will be observed in all public institutions at 3 p.m. local time. The current French President, Emmanuel Macron, and his wife are present here at the church. Chirac's successors, Nicolas Sarkozy and François Hollande, are also in attendance. The former head of state died last week at the age of 86. Chirac had been suffering from a series of problems, including heart problems, in recent years. His death was announced by his son-in-law, Frédéric Salat-Barrou, on Thursday morning. He's survived by his wife Bernadette and daughter Claude. Chirac served as the president of France for 12 years, from 1995 to 2007. His long political career on the French right spanned 3 decades. He was a dominant force in French politics even before taking up the presidency. Chirac served as mayor of Paris and was twice the Prime Minister of France. His supporters remember him as a charismatic and complex leader.
La paix soit avec vous.
He was nicknamed Le Bulldozer early in his career for his determination and ambition.
Qui touche l'ensemble de la France, on a pu le voir par les nombreuses personnes qui sont venues rendre hommage à Monsieur Jacques Chirac hier aux Invalides. Mais aussi l'émotion plus grande puisqu'ici.
Well, that was the funeral of France's former President Jacques Chirac taking place there. Moving on to other news now. In South Africa, leaders and dignitaries have hailed China's contribution to the world over the last 70 years.
On behalf of the Parliament of the Republic of South Africa and our people, I wish to send our warm wishes and also congratulations to the People's Republic of China, who is celebrating the 70th year since the revolution took place and the inception of the People's Republic of China. China is a dear friend to South Africa, and we joy in the celebrations and also wish the people well in receiving the message from your President, President Xi Jinping, and to look at the wonderful military parade that will take place. Just a few days ago, I was in Beijing, and I could see all the preparations taking place, and also the pride in the Chinese people for this important celebration.
Celebrating that 70 years of the People's Republic of China, 70 years, and the amazing things that you've done in the last 70 years for the people of China and the people of the world. And so I really do, I send the warmest wishes and congratulations from all of us here in the Western Cape and in South Africa for the great relationship that we have, and to say congratulations to all the people of China and of course your president, and well done on what you've done, and it's a great celebration of 70 years.
I greet also the Chinese community back down there in China. The Chinese president, all that big celebrations that are going to take place on Tiananmen Square the 1st of October. It's a very, very important day in China's history down there.
Like many African countries, Zimbabwe is highly dependent on donors, a situation that could work against its ambitions to climb out of poverty. Many believe the solution can only be achieved by following some of the steps China took, like looking within for solutions, empowering its informal sector of the economy and its rural population. CGTN's Farai Wakatuya has more.
Battered by economic hardships for close to 2 decades, many Zimbabweans are desperate to escape poverty. The way out, according to a former government minister and author of Zimbabwe, Looking East, lies within.
We think the answers will come from outside, like from donors and investors. So we are trying to attract investors. But I think the answers should come from inside. We should be able to have enough money from ourselves to improve the economy. We shouldn't be saying donors and investors come and improve us. No. We should be saying what money have we got in the country, what resources, what people, because the biggest resource is your human resource.
The majority of them live in rural areas, toiling on the land for a living.
We look at agriculture as our biggest economy maybe for the next 15, 20 years. How many of our small-scale farmers are doing mechanized plowing? And the answer is nil. Yeah, we have 2 million farmers, and all our support has gone to the wealthy commercial farmers, as in the Rhodesian days. The small farmers are getting nothing. Yeah. So I think that is a mistake, because when you have 2 million people devoted to agriculture, you have to look at how to improve them, and mechanization is an important issue.
China has provided training and encouraged use of appropriate technology to increase yields and help farmers achieve self-sufficiency. Once that is done, Zimbabwe can then follow the next step China took to develop secondary industries that produce for domestic and export markets. To achieve that, Zimbabwe will need to harness and nurture the innovation and hard work of its informal sector, mainstream it, and enable it to play a more meaningful role in the economy. Political and social stability are prerequisites for the desired prosperity.
Yeah, well, the first thing I think that we admire about China is the system of meritocracy. In other words, even though it's a single political party, but the people who end up managing the country are competent people, are skilled people, and they're focused. And there's a plan. They don't have time for political contestation like we are having currently in Zimbabwe. The Chinese nationals are focused on one goal, and that is to produce.
Zimbabwe's president has initiated dialogue with political rivals, which many hope will set the foundation from which their country can build a brighter future. Farai Wakatuya, CGTN, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Well, for more on this, we are now joined by Dr. David Monyai, co-director of the University of Johannesburg Confucius Institute. Thank you very much for joining us. China's growth over the last 70 years has been extraordinary. What lessons can Africa draw from this?
I think views expressed by so many people here in South Africa and Zimbabwe and across the continent is shared by many. I think the basic lesson that Africa should learn from China is to be focused and look at agrarian revolution, be able to feed itself, education, and ensure that you have competence, human resource adequate to deal with a number of issues, health, as well as look into the industrialization and follow these stages in a way that advances the well-being of ordinary people in terms of poverty alleviation.
So, looking at the agrarian revolution and human resources, with the development of China, what opportunities are there for African countries to ensure enhanced development?
There is so much that China really provides to Africa and the world. I think what is quite key is modernization with Chinese characteristics, the ability of Chinese leadership to learn and copy what other developed countries are doing in terms of knowledge and skills of modernization as we enter into the fourth industrial revolution. But while doing so, ensure that you build in Chinese norms and values and adopt new technologies to the betterment of Chinese people. And that major lesson is applicable to the African continent, in which African leaders and people should and must deal with the issue of education and ensure that we adapt to new technologies while dealing with basic issues of feeding our own people and rely less on external in terms of donor and donor language. Yes, the continent needs help from outside. However, it should really depend on its own people and ability to defend itself against poverty, external aggression, and all things that take the future of the continent to a better place, as China is doing on this special day in terms of celebrating the 7th year of freedom in China.
Okay, thank you very much for your analysis. That was Dr. David Munyai there, Co-Director, University of Johannesburg Confucius Institute. We are going to a short break now. Don't go away, lots more to come, including world leaders gather for memorial service of France's Jacques Chirac. And health officials in the DRC conduct massive immunization campaign to stem a measles outbreak.
The newly upgraded CGTN website offers optimized coverage of China and international affairs, as well as distinct voices from around the globe. Be the first to know the biggest political news and discover the background to the major decisions. Decode China with a different perspective and get a better understanding of how China sees the world. Go beyond the news with sharp opinions on the events shaping today's world and reveal a China you have never seen before. Listen to entrepreneurs for in-depth analysis of the economy and touch the pulse of new technology via our hands-on videos. Travel back in time with CGTN to learn about China's past and immerse yourself in Chinese culture to discover the stories behind Kung Fu. Get the latest news on Chinese lifestyle, including travel, sports, and nature. Regular productions including Ask China put high-ranking officials on the spot, while C-Lab presents new ways of storytelling via cutting-edge technologies, and Global Stringer delivers unique videos from China and beyond. Take a look at the world from a different angle. See the difference.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
The funeral service for former French President Jacques Chirac is underway. Let's now cross over to Paris and talk to CGTN's Stéphane de Vries, who is standing by for us there. Stéphane, can you give us more details on that memorial service and what we should expect today?
Well, the memorial service in the Saint-Sulpice Church in the middle of Paris is now underway, attended by the complete French government, also by French President Emmanuel Macron, also by the previous French presidents who are still alive, Valéry Giscard d'Estaing, Nicolas Sarkozy and François Hollande, and also by about 30 heads of state or leaders of government, and amongst them are President Vladimir Putin of Russia and also the presidents of Italy and Germany. This mass will take about an hour, and then the coffin with Jacques Chirac's corpse will be transported to the Montparnasse cemetery not far from where the mass is being held now, and at that cemetery there will be a private ceremony where Jacques Chirac will be buried in the family grave. So that's underway now. At the same time, when that is happening, when the mass has been over, the French president will host a luncheon at the Élysée Palace with the world leaders who are now gathering in Paris to pay their tribute to the former president Jacques Chirac.
And Stefan, tributes, of course, have been coming through for the late president. How will Parisians and Europe remember Jacques Chirac?
Well, a bit with mixed feelings. Of course, France and the French are mourning because Jacques Chirac was very loved, actually more than he was during his presidency, because he was seen as a man of the people who was close to the French. He loved anything French, especially gastronomy, French culture. So he was seen as somebody like, well, maybe you could describe him as a father of the nation. Maybe also the last French president that was a real, or seen as a real international statesman. His legacy, however, well, pundits, they are not very optimistic or positive about what he left behind. He was not a very pro-European. He quarreled a lot with Brussels and also other European leaders during his presidency that lasted from 1995 till 2007. And also the economy of France, well, he was not able to reform the country as was needed. So the feelings are mixed in general. People mourn the passing or the fact that a very nice, a very kind, warm, a charming person has disappeared, has deceased. But on the other hand, the president's legacy is not very impressive.
Okay, thank you very much for that update. That was CGTN's Stéphane de Vries there in Paris following the funeral ceremony for former French President Jacques Chirac. Moving on to other news now. Health officials in the Democratic Republic of Congo and the World Health Organization are conducting a massive immunization campaign to stem a measles outbreak that has claimed more than 3,000 lives this year. The authorities are targeting 825,000 children in 6 provinces across the country. CGTN's Chris Ochemringa has more from Kinshasa.
An emergency measles vaccination campaign gets underway in the DRC's southwestern town of Masi-Manimba. The WHO has called the measles epidemic in the DRC the world's largest and fastest moving outbreak. That's because close to 200,000 cases have been reported this year.
There are many reasons why parents don't get their children vaccinated. One of the reasons is that some parents stop taking their children for immunization after 6 months.
Officials say more than 3,600 people have died of measles across the DRC. Most of the deaths occurred among children.
The reason why we have a huge epidemic in DRC is because over the years, immunization coverage in routine is very low, around 30%, according to recent surveys.
International aid agencies have focused more attention in containing the Ebola outbreak in eastern DRC, but more people have died of measles over the past year.
It is true that more focus was really on Ebola, but WHO is advocating for all diseases, including measles, including Ebola. But it is true that even for Ebola, we don't have enough resources. That is one of the problems that we have faced. But also for measles, it is true that we don't have enough resources.
Measles is a highly infectious respiratory disease that causes a runny nose and skin rash. It occurs mostly among children, but adults who haven't been vaccinated can also get infected. Insufficient funding for immunization programs and a weak health system have contributed to the spread of the measles outbreak across the DRC. But the international community has committed to support the government to strengthen its healthcare system in order to prevent such deaths. Chris Ochemringa, CGTN, Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo.
Chirping of birds, sounds of whispering trees, burbling of streams. When sunlight sets the forest's leaves aglow, and waterfall surges down from the mountain, we see and hear the Earth's wondrous beauty. The Earth is meant to be appreciated, and the life of its inhabitants deserves our endless exploration. Come with CGTN to listen and see, in chorus of life, to marvel at nature and life.
All the business news coming up for you after the break, including Kenya's central bank mops up $1 million as the deadline to surrender demonetized notes sets in. And Singapore takes the lead in developing clothing that can monitor your health vitals.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Kenyans have up to close of business today to exchange old 1,000 Kenyan shilling notes for new generation notes. In the past 3 months, Central Bank of Kenya has engaged in extensive public awareness campaigns aimed at informing people about the pending demonetization. Additionally, the financial regulators officials have reached out to prison officers and judicial officers to ensure old notes in prisons and court exhibits are converted into the new generation notes before the Monday deadline. The central bank governor, Dr. Patrick Njoroge, has revealed that banks are strictly observing anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing rules to prevent illicit funds from entering the formal financial system. The central bank has mopped up an excess of $1 million in the past 2 weeks. Egypt's stock market index for securities, EGX 30, has climbed by as much as 3.8%. This is after the central bank cut key interest rates for the second month in a row and anti-government protests failed to gather momentum. The gains come after 8 days of a decline in the markets. Local financial institutions were net purchases and helped push the index higher for a third straight session. The central bank cut interest rates by 100 basis points, with overnight deposit rates lowered to 13.25% and lending rates easing to 14.25%. The stock exchange suspended trading on around 70 shares for 10 minutes after they climbed by more than 5% during the first half hour of trading. Well, still in North Africa, 36 countries and 550 exhibitors in different specialities are taking part in the 14th edition of the Tunisia International Agriculture Show, themed "Agriculture is the Solution." Tunisia aims to transform agriculture into a sector that is not just a producer, but an exporter of smart services and solutions. CGTN's Adnan Shouachi has more.
The president of the Union of Agriculture and Fisheries noted that a national strategy needs to be developed for the next 30 years to improve the performance of the Tunisian agriculture and increase its contribution to GDP and development in general, and ensure better living conditions for the people.
Intelligent and modern farming and agriculture is our main objective. This is how Tunisia can achieve the target of increased productivity and quality of its agricultural produce in the next 3 decades.
This tent of the Smart Village is perceived as a meeting space dedicated to young entrepreneurs and promoters of innovative projects. 20 startups have offered a series of smart solutions to develop the agricultural sector and solve some of the problems facing farmers.
We've made 2 types of drones. The first drone analyzes all quantitative data from the soil of any farm. It's also used in cartography and water resource detection. The second drone is used in oases for the insemination of palm trees in a rapid and efficient way.
The international event has attracted over 20,000 visitors. More than 10 African delegations exhibited their agricultural produce and signed several agreements to boost export.
My company is making many products based on natural shea butter, which is extracted from Burkina Faso. Many Tunisian partners have shown interest in this product.
We've come together with an important delegation from Niger. Together, we're building up the Niamey-Tunis trade line and intensifying exchange in terms of products and technology transfer.
Tunisian authorities have welcomed the exhibition's content, the advanced technical tools and technologies, as well as the large presence of young people who were previously reluctant to carry out agricultural activities.
During his visit to the International Show of Agriculture and Technology, Interim President Mohamed Nasser considered that agriculture can be the solution for unemployment, provided best use is made of all available potential in human resources and agricultural land, indicating that 50% of agricultural lands across Tunisia are not exploited. Adnan Shouachi, CGTN, Tunis.
Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince has warned that oil prices could rise to unimaginably high numbers if the world does not act to deter Iran. Prince Mohammed bin Salman said a war between Saudi Arabia and Iran would ruin the global economy. This is after an attack on its oil facilities 2 weeks ago, which it blames on Tehran. Iran has since denied any involvement in the attacks. Saudi Arabia says 18 drones and 7 cruise missiles were fired on the country's 2 oil facilities in Abqaiq and Khurais on 14th of September. Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthi rebels have said they were behind the attacks.
If the world does not take a strong and firm action to deter Iran, we will see further escalations that will threaten world interests. Oil supplies will be disrupted and oil prices will jump to unimaginably high numbers that we haven't seen in our lifetimes.
Turning to Brexit now, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says he won't step down even if he fails to secure a deal for the UK to leave the European Union. Johnson spoke on Sunday in Manchester as thousands of Conservatives arrived for the party's annual conference. The UK Parliament has passed a law which forces the Prime Minister to ask for a Brexit extension if he hasn't struck a deal with Brussels by October the 18th. Johnson calls the law the Surrender Act, but won't explain how he plans to bypass it. He insists reaching a deal is still possible.
I've undertaken to lead the party in my country at a difficult time, and I'm going to continue to do that. I believe it's my responsibility to do that, and I think that it's our job to get Brexit done on October the 31st, but to move the country on.
Wearable technology has largely been limited to smartwatches and fitness trackers, but now a team of scientists in Singapore has added smart clothing to that list. They developed a material that can be used to boost signals between devices and potentially assist in monitoring health vitals. CGTN's Miro Lu reports.
In a relatively short span of time, smart tech has dominated our lives. Currently, most smart devices connect via radio waves like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. These waves travel outwards in all directions before returning to the wearable tech on your body, such as smart watches and fitness trackers. Researchers at the National University of Singapore have invented a type of smart textile that can make communication between your devices 1,000 times faster, bringing wearable devices to the next level.
And so what we've done was design a very special pattern that can actually kind of capture these signals, and rather than to have these signals move out away from you, they can kind of glide on the surface of your body.
The technology also allows users to save on that precious battery and protect their devices from hackers.
Most of your devices spend actually the majority of its battery life just transmitting these wireless signals. So that could translate to much more energy efficient communication. The second would be maybe security. It means that anyone kind of standing around you can't listen in on that signal.
The smart clothing consists of this comb-shaped stripe, which is highly durable and can be attached to any type of clothing. A probable use of this technology can be in athletics. This smart fabric could potentially be converted into specialized clothing for athletes to measure their performance regularly and continuously. Another significant application for smart clothing in the future is, of course, in healthcare. Right now, doctors will have to connect patients through multiple wires to heavy medical equipment for vitals monitoring, such as heart rate and blood pressure. But in the future, they might be able to just tape this smart textile on hospital gowns, perhaps, to reduce the dependency on bulky items.
And so what kind of these wearable devices allow you to do is kind of capture for the first time how your body changes dynamically over a period of hours, days, maybe even weeks. And so that kind of information could maybe just give me something fundamentally different than what an invasive test could do. Maybe in some contexts, hopefully even replace what an invasive test could do.
Thanks to its wearability, smart clothing can especially help monitor people with respiratory disease and heart conditions while they go about their regular lives. The development of smart clothing is still in its early stages across the globe, but there is no denying that with every new invention, we're moving closer to a day when smart clothes become a part of our daily lives. Miro Lu, CGTN, Singapore.
Coming up in the programme, we see how an innovative process in Kenya is turning air into clean drinking water.
Join us in Global Business and see Africa through our eyes.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
I've learned how to code in a simple way.
For together with other young people, we're able to make this difference.
Now to our first installation of our Social Startup Africa series. We look at water harvesting from the air. There's an estimated 6 times more water in the atmosphere than in all rivers combined. Now, thanks to technological advances and innovative people like Beth Koichi in Kenya, we're able to turn air into water. Let's now take a look.
I'm Beth Koichi. I made this glass of clean drinking water from air using this device. I was born in Kiambu, it's a county in Kenya, and that's where I was raised. Actually, where I was born, there was a lot of water, to be sincere. So we grew in that 1% place in Kenya. There was a lot of water, and we were oblivion to the water situation elsewhere. So let me first explain the name. So maji means water in Swahili, and the K stands for kuvuna. So basically the name means water harvesting. So kuvuna is harvesting in Swahili. It has been more of a journey than just waking up and like having an idea. I started with water filtration because my first encounter with water issues, it was with water contamination when I was doing my undergraduate. But then Kenya in 2016, 2017 had a huge drought. That was actually on another level in terms of the way I was affected by water, because I've never experienced that. So you'd go for 4 months without water in your tap, and that's where I felt like maybe I should be looking at water stress as an issue as a whole. And that's why we started looking at other water resources apart from rivers, borehole, and now we settled on air. The reason why we decided this is the best place to test our technologies because first, the children do not have like clean drinking water. Previously, they were drinking water from the rainfall, but they haven't had rainfall for a long while. And also the tap water is not drinkable because it's not purified and comes from a river that has high levels of contamination from like the industrial areas around here. And then the other thing is quite spacious. So this technology requires a lot of air coming in and out. So it's ideal. So right now we are using 2 methods. One is the condensation, and the other one is using desiccants. So this machine can get 50 liters of water from the atmosphere. Basically, it uses condensation model. So we have air being pulled in from this side. So there is an internal fan, and then that same air, it's actually called wet air. And then from the other side, it's from behind here, it's expelled as hot, dry air. And this is because it has undergone the condensation coil, so most of the water vapor has already been condensed. And then that water is actually now passed through these filters. So we have different kind of filters, reverse osmosis, there's activated carbon filters, there's the sedimentation filter. So there are different kind of filters to remove different things. And then once the water is passed through these filters, it's stored in the tank. Hiyo ni mingi. Yeah. Basically, part of the reason why we bought the machine here is also to understand how it works and how, like, the energy consumption, how do people find the taste. So for me, it was refreshing to see the children drinking from it and liking it. So running this machine is quite expensive in terms of energy. A normal person living in a rural place will not afford to pay for that electricity. So that is a big hindrance even for us, making a business case to taking this technology actually where it's needed. And that's why we are adapting or looking for ways to adapt the solar panels and the solar system to run this device. That means there's a lot of sun here, so it is the best or the ideal source of energy, and actually it will be cheaper in the long run for everyone. I think I never expected people to be this supportive. So, and I think we are getting over the idea that people can try to help you achieve your vision without needing something back from you. So many times we are left wondering, what is this person gaining by doing this for us? So for me personally, I have seen that actually people want to see solutions working and they want to see a certain idea successful, because eventually it will change the world.
All the sports news coming up for you after the break, including Nuvo Manyonga and Akani Simbine eye further improvements beyond Doha World Championships.